Welcome to the Secure the Bag Book Club, another Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time session where we talk about building our wealth and maintaining it in a variety of strategies. I'm Brooke Brown, your esteemed host of this lovely gathering. I'm not a guru, nor am I an expert, but I am in the finance industry and I have a lot of high touch as it relates to financial topics. So I figured, why not? Why not share the knowledge that I have? Why not learn alongside you all as we learn about business models, as we learn about strategies, as we learn about just all the ways that we can, grow and protect our wealth, which is the purpose of this entire channel, What Brooke Spent. So this month we are talking about credit. And the book that we are talking about is Your Score, an Insider Secrets to Understanding, Controlling, and Protecting Your Credit Score by Anthony Davenport. So that is the book that we are reading this month of March. And I just want to refresh your memory because there is a fantastic playlist. If you haven't already checked out the Secure the Bag Book Club playlist on my channel, we've talked about buying art. We've talked about tax planning. We've talked about stock investing and real estate and even intellectual property, right? And so all those videos is just a wealth of knowledge. The books that we've read are a wealth of knowledge that we can then use. If you are joining live, go ahead and shout yourself in the chat. Would love to acknowledge your presence. Really appreciate you participating. Thank you for coming in. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, right? So the chapters that we cover this week are chapters 3, 4, and 5. And if you'll recall, the Spotify playlist has the previous books and the current book, the audiobook version. So that Spotify playlist is linked in the description. So go ahead and check that out. Hey, listen on your morning commute or, while you're washing the dishes or do whatever you need to do to get this knowledge. So chapter 3 is building the perfect credit profile. Chapter 4 is gaming the system. And chapter 5 is the 5 biggest credit mistakes and how to avoid them. So I figured we'd do it a little out of order this session and start with chapter 5, which is the 5 biggest mistakes, right? So he goes into talking about the 5 mistakes that people make. Number 1, right? This is on it starts on page 67. Yes, I'm correct. 67, right? Mistake 1 is, and I'll read it verbatim, walking into a negotiation for a mortgage, car loan, or other big ticket line of credit without knowing exactly where your credit score stands. That's mistake number 1. Okay, so awareness, right? We need to get a lay of the land. We need to know what we are presenting as far as our credit profile to those who would look to see if we are worthy of credit, lending a line of credit, right? So, right, that's thinking about not just knowing your score, because that's one part of it, right? Because the score that puts you alongside other predictable paths that you could take as a borrower and compares you to other people with a similar score and what their level of risk is for a lender. But it's also what's in that profile, right? What are those dings that you might have on your credit profile? What are those misinformation? What are those things that just I didn't even know I had that medical debt from 5 years ago. What are you talking about? It's in collections. It's those kinds of things that we need to be aware of, and not knowing it is mistake number 1. Okay. Number 2, right? Mistake number 2 is putting off understanding or dealing with your credit situation. Ooh, so before reading this book, let's be honest with ourselves. Were we aware of, how credit works and what makes you look good to a lender? I don't know. Maybe it's that you were like, you know what? it's hurting me anyways. I might as well just, I don't have it to give. I can't pay off this, collection. Just let it, do what it does to my credit. Just let it wreck my credit because I can't do anything to solve it anyways. Oh, but you can. And in the chapter that talks about gaming the system, talks about a lot of the strategies that you can do when you're talking to a creditor, talking to the bureaus, or talking to a collector as it relates to your accounts if they are damaging your credit profile. Okay. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you are, not sticking your head in the sand, because that's really what's doing most of the damage, right? When you know better, you do better, right? So when we know, that there are ways that we can work with a creditor, work with negotiate with a lender if we're having trouble making payments, or if we had, that one time we forgot to make a payment because, just slipped our minds or something like that, or just you're falling on hard times financially, there are options. You have options, and I think that what this particular section has done is made you aware of the power that you have. You have power in this, and you have say so. It's not just your credit score is just hoisted upon you, right? This is all decision making. It's all trying to execute strategy, right? So I think that's a good strategy. As we're going through these mistakes, let me know in the chat if any of those are mistakes that you're making that you're just like, I am going to do better, Brooke. Okay? Because I'm going to root you on. I'm going to cheer you on. Yes, I am. Mistake number 3, underestimating the ways various negatives hurt your credit score and how seemingly unimportant factors can help it. So he talks a lot about in that section of the mistakes there, right? Of thinking about how you are underestimating the impact of things, right? He talked about the fact that being 30 days late on a $100 payment is just as bad as being 30 days late on a $10,000 payment. It doesn't matter to the bureaus. It's like she's not making her obligation. We don't think she's as worthy of lending as she would have been if she hadn't made that mistake, right? So it's thinking about when you are making choices related to your lending products, related to your credit, related to your mix of credit, all your your credit utilization, all that, all those, the mix of what goes into your credit profile, right? And your credit score. It's thinking about those things and making sure that you're not making choices that might negatively impact your score, right? So it's also things like, uh, getting multiple credit cards, lessening your age of your all your accounts because you decided to get 3 credit cards to get travel rewards points or something like that, right? Or doing a balance transfer, and then suddenly you have more debt held on a particular credit account. It's things like that that are potentially a mistake that you could be making, and you're not even thinking about it. Like, I mean, you're not conscious of the fact that, hey, there might be a better approach, and that's why I picked this book in the first place, because I was like, we need to know what the impact is and why certain things are weighted the way that they are, when it comes to the algorithm, the formula that the bureaus use to calculate your score. Next one, mistake number 4, not paying attention to the mix and timing of your new credit applications. See, we talked about this, right? We literally just talked, we just discussed, we just said it, right? It's thinking about, should I get that student loan? Should I get that car loan? Should I get, is now the right time to be looking for a mortgage? I just opened a credit card. Should I open another one? Right? Timing. Timing matters, right? Because the age of your credit accounts lets the bureaus know, she just recently opened a bunch of credit cards. She might be a little over leveraged. She might be, getting in way over her head, right? What is the mix of her credit? Like, she only has a student loan, but no credit cards and no, auto loan or whatever. Well, she might be a little, fresh in the credit game, right? Because typically, right, when you're a student, you don't really have as many credit accounts, right? You don't have a mortgage. You don't have, typically, right? You don't have a mortgage. You don't have credit cards. You don't have a car loan in your name, right? So those kinds of things, timing and the mix of your credit accounts can be a mistake that you're making, right? And then the final mistake was failing to deal with your credit issues using a coherent strategy and approach. I wrote not using strategy is detrimental. Why? Because your back is against the wall, right? When you are not aware of your credit situation, you're not proactively taking steps to make sure that it is in good health. And so you really want to make sure that you know your stuff, and that you're on top of your credit profile by looking at it on a regular basis, at least once a year, and cleaning it up if it needs, some tender loving care. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I wanted to go backwards. And again, let me know in the chat if there's a mistake that you're making that you're just like, you know what? I know better. So now I'm going to do better. Let me know in the chat. Okay. So now on page 41, we're going to go backwards to chapter 3, building the perfect credit profile. Loved this chapter. Why? Because it gave the cut and dry, explicit, this is what you need to have in order to get that 800 plus credit score, which according to Credit Karma and according to my bank's score simulator and pull and all that whatnot, it's a sorry, I hit my mic. It's a it mentions in the chapter, I can't remember which chapter, but it talks about, like, being cautious of like those vanity scores like Credit Karma and stuff like that, because they can be 50-point difference between your real score, the one that, like, if someone was trying to give you a mortgage would see, compared to what Credit Karma pulls. But it's good for educational purposes, right? Because it lets hey, your score is dipping a little bit. Let's, investigate, right? I did a video in this on my page, right? It was just a short, but, it talks about, like, Credit Karma is useful for making sure that you're not, that you don't have some negative marks on your account that you should probably look into. But they are not the actual score that you have from the bureaus that are being reported to certain types of lenders. So there you go. Now, let's get into the perfect credit profile. Let's talk about it. I love the analogy that they gave. Page 41 is where I'm starting. The best parking spots at the mall. That is the analogy that he gave. He said, look, there are all these parking spots at the mall, but we know good and well that there are certain parking spots that are better than others, right? You want those ones that you don't have to walk far to get into the door, right? So if you're talking about the best parking spots, right? At the top of the credit account hierarchy is a mortgage account. Why? Number one, a lot of vetting goes into it. I would know because I have a mortgage, and I know that they ask me for all kinds of proof of income. They ask me for my tax returns. They asked me, I don't remember what else they asked me, but there was a lot of, like, let me pull your credit, see if you have any delinquencies, see if you're not paying certain things on time, because they're assessing the risk that they are assuming giving you credit. They're trying to figure out, are you going to pay them back? And then the other thing with mortgages, in addition to the amount of vetting, is that they're collateralized. Collateralized just means that there is a tangible asset that if if you fall delinquent on your obligations, on your agreement to pay, they can then seize that property, right? So that's what collateralized means. So with a mortgage, you don't pay your mortgage, they take your house. That's what it is, right? And if you have a long track record of paying your mortgage on time, it's like having a highly trusted person vouch for your character. So, see, there you go. I haven't, I'm just going to say for simplicity, I'm just going to tell you that I have an 810 credit score, right? And what I realized is that I've been paying my mortgage for about 7 years now, on time, every time, the full amount, right? And so that is impacting my credit in a positive way, because it's like, oh, she's good. She can pay a mortgage. Well, we might have to take a second look at her. So there's one. Now the second hierarchy, right, is installment loans. These are things like your car loans and your student loans, right? Having a defined so installment loans have a defined amount you owe and a defined amount of time in which to be repaid, right? So when you think about a car loan, right, they give you a certain amount and they say you have 60 months to pay it back, right? And you need to pay X amount of dollars every month, right? They're very stable. And they are also, they signal a income stability. When you're paying them on time, it shows that you have the money to pay for it and you are you're actually executing on that. And then with student loans, they're backed by the federal government. Well, some of them are. So that's also a way of them, assessing risk, because hey, they can always ask the government to, make sure that you get your money back, and they can't be discharged in a bankruptcy. So there you go. And then the second to last one is your open-ended revolving accounts, such as credit cards. Those are your store credit cards, all those kinds of things, right? You pay it down every month, ideally, right? Every month, and they give you that same, credit up to the limit, the next month, right? Or, whatever the arrangement is, right? But the problem with those is if you file for bankruptcy, there's no way of them getting their money back, right? So it makes you an increased risk. Okay. And then the last one is medical debt. I won't go into that one because, hey, it is what it is. Now, page 43, listen good. Here it is. If you are looking for the ideal credit profile, mortgage account, installment loan, like a car loan or a student loan, those are the staples, right? Beyond that, here it is. I'm reading verbatim. Beyond that, a total of 5 to 9 loans in good standing with a mixture of mortgage loans, car loans, student loans, credit cards, and store cards comprises the profile lenders want to see. Be careful, because 11 lines of credit open is too many. All right. So the sweet spot is 5 to 9 accounts, credit cards, car loan, student loan, whatever, all those different extensions of credit, paid on time, showing they're paid on time, right? And with enough history, more than 2 years, you're in good standing there, right? So, it mentioned, I highlighted this, so I wanted to go into this real quick. A credit card account that adds the most value to your credit profile is one you've had for at least a year. So remember, I said 2 years, right? And that has a spotless payment history. So if you go out and get, if you want to do a balance transfer, for example, don't close the original credit card, because that's going to shorten the age of your credit, and that's going to impact your score. It's going to impact your profile, and you don't want that. So yeah, I mean, and then I'm not going to go too much into the gaming the system part, because you guys can read that on your own. But just know that it gave some really fantastic strategies about what to say, when to say it, how to say it. to dealing with your creditors if you have, some delinquencies that you need to get cleared up off of your credit report. Um, the bureaus themselves, which they talked about, like, the writing campaign, how you have to write letters in the year of our Lord 2026. Like, what? But yeah, apparently you can't just send an email and poof, it's gone. You've got to state your case, and that's how you get certain things resolved with the bureaus. And then of course with collectors as well, I love that they talked about the fact that, like, you don't have to be bullied. You don't have to be bullied into paying these people. So definitely something worth checking out as well, in the section that we just read. Okay, so going forward, next week, we're going to be talking about chapters 6 through 8. You can go on my website, www.whatbrooksspent.com and /events, and you can find the reading schedule there, right? Next week, we'll be talking about chapters 6 through 8. And again, it's Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be squeezed. Yeah. And so, anyways, I'm thankful that you guys joined me on this session of Secure the Bag Book Club. And remember, once again, tell the others. We are doing something impactful in this, exchange of knowledge. So I really want you guys to definitely get the benefit of that, and just make sure that we're spreading the word, because hey, you never know who needs it. All right. So thank you so much for joining me, and make sure you tell the others, and I will talk to you guys on the next stream. Bye.